Assalamu alaikum everyone. Today we will be talking about Halloween and its origins, like the different rituals done on Halloween and like where they came from, and whether or not Muslims should be celebrating Halloween or not. So we will get started. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي اللهم ربنا زدنا علما. Okay, so before we do research on anything, it's important to know like the origins of it and where it came from. So we will start with the origins of Halloween. So a very long time ago, like thousands of years ago, there was a group of people from Ireland and Britain who were known as the Celts. And these Celts, they practiced the Druid religion. So meaning like the Druid religion meant like they didn't worship Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but rather they worshipped idols and the natural world around them. And they also had an evil festival that they celebrated known as the Day of Samhain. Pretty sure I pronounced that right. Okay, so Samhain was the name of their god of death, of their god of darkness and evil spirits, and anything related to that. And first off, for these people, they celebrated New Year's on November 1st because that was like the end of their harvest season. So for us, our New Year's is like January 1st. That would make December 31st New Year's Eve. So for them, New Year's Eve was the day before November 1st, which is October 31st, which we now call Halloween on that day. But back then, that was their New Year's Eve. And on that day, they would celebrate their evil festival known as the Day of Samhain. Now, what is the evil day of Samhain? These people, they believed that the dead souls and evil spirits from the people of the past year would come to attack them and their families. So they thought they needed to make the dead souls happy or else they'd bring death to them and their families. Like, for example, during the winter time, it was really, really cold and many people died during the winter. And they all assumed that it was the doing of these dead souls. They were coming to get revenge, and that's what had killed these people. So to make these dead souls happy, they would dress up in different masks and costumes, and they would offer these dead souls like foods and drinks on the 31st night of October. And there's different narrations that people believe, but these people basically thought that the demons and ghosts, or like the people, the dead souls, they would be raised from hell and walk the earth, or they would look for a portal to the netherworld, which is another word for hell. And some that are part of the Druid religion believe that Samhain would capture the souls and take them to hell. So primarily this day, October 31st, was a day where people celebrated death, hell, like any worship of the devil, and just all evil stuff. And all the stuff we commonly associate with Halloween today was a reality for them back then. So for the people who still worship Satan, like to this day, 2021 or current times, the 31st night of October is still very important and is considered a religious holiday for them. And similar to these people, similar to the Celtic people, the Romans also had a similar evil festival that took place on May 13th. So it was basically the same as the Day of Samhain, but the Romans just had it on May 13th, not on October 31st. But primarily, it was promoting the same things. So around 600 years after Prophet Isa alayhi salam, the Pope, who was the Christian leader at the time, had started a new holiday called All Saints' Day. And this day was to respect the good Christians who died on the same day as the Roman evil festival, which was on May 13th. The Christian people who followed Pope, they wanted to destroy the evil like Roman festival, and they did, and they replaced it with All Saints' Day instead. So after many improvements, the old festival that the Celtics and the Romans celebrated has now become modern day Halloween, because these people, they believe that the most amount of spiritual activity is on this day. And it was basically like a day where they thought the dead and the living would meet. So they would do a lot like hide behind masks or costumes, have bonfires to keep away the spirits. They would put food out as peace offerings, and we'll learn more in depth like the reasoning behind that and everything. But basically, these were all like, if you think about it, that is where the rituals and traditions from Halloween originate from. But over time, they have adapted and changed. Um, like we'll learn more in depth about this, but basically it is important to know that Halloween is associated with celebrating superstition, black magic, and devil worship. And we should know it is all against Islam. All these stuff, it goes against what Islam is about. So now the name Halloween, as we learned, there is a day where the Romans, like they had that day on May 13th, which was similar to the day of Samhain, and the Christians, they like replaced it with All Saints Day. Another name for All Saints Day is All Hallows Day. And originally it was called All Hallows Even or All Hallows Eve, because it was the day before the new year. So then it was like shortened over time to become Halloween, which is the modern day term everyone uses for it. Hallow, like if you take in the literal meaning, it means like is something to honor as holy. But we know Halloween is not holy at all because it encourages evil spirits. And the "een" basically is contraction to Eve or eventing before. So these peoples, as I mentioned before, they would burn fires to welcome the dead souls and the like dead ghosts. Pardon? Do you have a question?
No, keep going.
Okay. So these people, they would burn fires to welcome the dead souls and ghosts. And other people, they had bonfires as well because they believed it would scare away the souls, protecting them from their harm. And the only thing left from that ritual is the jack-o'-lantern. So originally, jack-o'-lanterns weren't pumpkins, but they were actually decapitated heads. And people they thought that the head had a soul in it. So the pumpkins were basically used to represent those decapitated heads. And the term jack-o'-lantern, there's another story that's been told. The term jack-o'-lantern comes from an old Irish folk tale called Stingy Jack. So legend has it that Jack invited the devil himself to have a drink with him. And the thing is, Jack wasn't called stingy for no reason. Jack wanted to get away with a free drink, so he tricked the devil into picking up his bar tab. After Jack passed away, he was prevented from moving on to the afterlife as punishment for like tricking the devil. So Jack was cursed to eternally wander the earth in the dead of night with only a single coal ember to guide him. So Jack would place his light in a hollowed out turnip, and from that point onward, people began to call him Jack of the Lantern, or Jack-o'-lantern for short. So in reverence of this tale, the Irish began to carve out vegetables in his likeness, and the carved out produce served as a deterrent to keep Jack away, while lighting the way for good spirits. So that's right. Basically, pumpkins were not the first item that were decorated for what we know as All Hallows Eve, but other vegetables were like used as well, such as turnips, like Jack did. But this is basically where the old Irish folktale, and this is where they believe the term jack-o'-lantern and even like the ritual of carving a pumpkin and putting the light in derives from. As for the costumes, which people come like that's the main thing people associate with Halloween is the costumes. The Druids were scared of what the spirits would do to them. So the people who practiced the Druid religion, the Celtics, they were scared of what the spirits would do to them. So they would hide behind masks and costumes, like in hopes that the spirit might leave them alone and their families alone, and so that the spirits and like the dead souls wouldn't be able to recognize them because they didn't want to be terrorized by these evil spirits. And then there's also the other aspect of Halloween, which is trick-or-treating. So people back then were afraid that the spirits roaming around would harm them, that they would terrorize them and their families. So they would also put out food and sometimes offered shelter for them because they thought if they didn't give enough food, the demons would torment them. And nowadays for Muslims, it's trick-or-treating can be seen as either blackmail or begging, and Muslims are not supposed to beg or extort people in any way. And in the Middle Ages, trick-or-treating meant that if you don't give me a treat, I will pull a trick on you. It was in other words, it was considered a threat because if you don't give me a trick, if you don't give me a treat, I will pull a trick on you. And the most common types of tricks were like, I don't know, putting TPing someone's house, basically. That was, I think, the most common one, but there's also other ones as well. And people would light bonfires and wear costumes, as I said, to ward off the Roman ghosts. And now when we think of Halloween, this is typically what we associate it with. We associate demons and ghosts and evil spirits with Halloween. This is the root of it all. And for them, these Celtic people, it was a reality. Okay. Now the question is, should Muslims celebrate Halloween? So it's important to note, to come to a definitive answer about anything, it is important to do research and know the history, what it meant over time, and what it means today. So as for Halloween, we learned that technically it is a religious holiday and is celebrated on like a religious aspect currently still in like many different religions. So even though it may not seem like, even though it like seems like it's just for fun and it's not being celebrated as a religious thing, Muslims, if we take part in this practice, it is as if we're honoring it and honoring like what has happened before, the history, and all the stuff related to Halloween. In Islam, we do not associate ourselves from any evil with any evil or supernatural or superstitious stuff, which is primarily what Halloween promotes. The Quran tells us as well that the devil is an open enemy to humanity. So in other words, there's no compromise with the devil. Everyone is responsible for their own decisions. So just because you see other people doing it, like even when you were younger, I don't know if anyone really relates at this age, but when you were younger, you saw your other friends doing it and you thought it was okay. But as Muslims, we have to be confident in that and just not celebrate Halloween and not take part in these rituals as well. So plain answer, if someone asks you why you don't celebrate Halloween, just say because you're Muslim and it goes against your beliefs. Muslim means that we surrender our wills and desires for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So if we want to do something, but it's not what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala wants, we have to leave it like right away, no questions asked. But it doesn't mean that we can be like sad about it. Muslims are the only people, the only religion, Islam, in the entire world that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose the two holidays that we celebrate. For other religions, such as Halloween, such as Christmas, they were man-made religions. They weren't, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala didn't choose that religion for Christians. He didn't make it mandatory upon them. But Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala chose Eid for us because of our sacrifices that we make and because it's just a beautiful holiday. And Friday as well is like one of the most beautiful days of the weeks. Everyone loves Fridays. And as Muslims, we already love Fridays because it's even more special. It's Jummah. And also on Fridays, showering is wajib because it's sunnah and you're supposed to purify yourselves before you pray Jummah as well. Before we end off, it's important to note that celebrating any other day on the name of religion is not allowed. Celebrating culture is allowed, but celebrating anyone's religious holiday is not allowed because we learned that Halloween is a religious holiday for many people. So we cannot say that we are only celebrating it for fun because there is religious value attached to it still. For example, like non-Muslims don't typically celebrate Eid for fun. So similarly, we don't really take part in Halloween or other religion holidays like that for the fun of it. It's like similar to a long time ago, many of you probably heard the story of when Surah Kafirun came, the Quraysh were basically trying to negotiate with the Prophet ﷺ that you follow my religion for one day and I'll follow yours for one day. But the end solution is that there's no compromise between religion. You're either Muslim or you're not. Like you're all in or you're all out. The glass can't be half full. So yes, that's all I have for the Halloween thing. Does anyone have any questions?
I have a question.
Yes.
Do you know how in Ramzan the devil is locked up, or in Halloween is the devil's cage open?
I would assume so. Yes.
That is the myth. That is the myth. They think that this happens. That day is just a day like any other day. Is Shayateen more happy? Obviously. Why? Because they tricked people. But there are more Shayateen? Or the gates are open? No. Because for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, it's just like any other day. It's man-made day, not Allah made. The evil spirits, the ghost, really don't come. That's not reality. That's not true. So no. Okay. You don't need to worry or to be scared that there are going to be ghosts coming today, because that was a lie. They made it up.
Thank you. So all the costumes are man-made.
Yes, they made the day, the costumes, the culture, the pumpkins, the lanterns, the candy, everything is man-made. You don't have days to celebrate. These were the devil worshippers. They're God, idol. In the beginning of the class, Michelle told us that the God of evil. So this is the day for the God of evil. And does the God of evil exist?
No.
No. So the day does not exist.
And also, do you know when they do like trick or treat, they're technically begging.
Yes, they're begging and threatening. You give us treat or we will trick you. They throw eggs on you, they still do. Once there were eggs on my windows. They
They
still
put
do
toilet
that.
paper on the trees and the houses and stuff.
If you're not giving candy, right? So they trick you.
So the gonna is the good not to like give candies because they're just gonna trick you and then smash eggs at your window.
You're giving the candy because you believe on the system.
No, astaghfirullah.
Then you cannot give the candy.
Okay.
You don't take part in any kind of part in this celebration.
Okay.
Let's play Kahoot. I'm also close the subhanakallah bihamdika nashhadu la ilaha illa anta nastaghfiruka wa natubu ilayk. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.